Greetings YouTube, Furious Swimmer here, taking a look at the new god Awilix. She's pretty cool. She's I kind of get the feel like almost like a Circuit, just the way her kit feels. But anyhow, her kit itself, her passive, initiative. Basically, if she initiates combat and gets the first strike, you know, to initiate combat, you know, whatever goes in first or whatever, she gets a 30% physical power buff for 2.5 seconds. Very good, very strong. Her number one summon Suku, is our cat, and this is really cool for a couple reasons. One is she's just mounted and she can run around, and it's not like a 5 second, 10 seconds, just however long you want to stay mounted. The thing is you can see, like, going sideways you move very, very slow. But going forward, you get a 25% speed buff, and you can run in circles much quicker than you can just stopping and strafing. Another very cool thing about this is this. Damage does not dismount you. So that's pretty cool. So you can right click at any point in time, and it does not use the cooldown if you right click and cancel it. So you can hop back on and ride away. You'd left click to hop off, and it does some damage. When you do that, you do the thing. So, very cool ability. I like that a lot. Feather Step, this is basically, it works in combination with her hit progression. So her hit progression is 1.0, 0.75, and 1.25. So if you're unfamiliar with hit progression, that means on her first hit she does full damage. Next second hit it's 0.75, and then third hit does 1.25 times her her base damage plus any modifiers from crit or anything. So the way that this works is when you she flips over the last enemy hit within 1.5 seconds, rooting, crippling, and dealing damage as she passes over them. So the way this works is I don't know, go do this to Bra. I'll go ahead and cancel this. So you can see, like, I'll hit him, and then user number 2, and she flips over, and that flip over them roots them and cripples them and does some damage. Now the way it works with their hit progression is if you're on the third hit, if her next attack is her third hit, so you do 2 attacks and then use her number 2, when you flip over it does AoE damage. And she's definitely going to be a jungler, a very, very strong jungler. So when you are jungling with her, you want to take advantage of that number 2. So this is where you'll be starting with your jungle, as far as what you're prioritizing for your jungle role. So anyhow, 2 hits, then do your flip, and that'll do AoE damage to the pack of creeps or whatever in the jungle. Her number 3 is basically it's just she sends her cat out in a line. This is almost entirely just for chasing somebody. Now it does do some, you know, decent damage even if you're fighting them and you just need to pump out a little bit more damage. It's just an ability on a line, knocks them up. But realistically, the way you're going to want to use that ability for the most part, and see, like, there is kind of, it says if hit from behind, enemies are also knocked up into the air. And there I was kind of facing Ron, it still knocked him up in the air, so I'm not sure about the mechanic there. I think that maybe I was a little to the side, maybe you don't have to be right behind him, don't know. Anyhow, that works in conjunction with her ult, which is called Gravity Surge. Now this is kind of a weird ability in a sense, because it only has an effect if your enemy is up in the air. So this works, like I said, in conjunction with her 3. You can see that time it didn't knock him up in the air, so I'm not sure, you know, like I said, I think it was a little bit off to the side or something. Let me try and get off to the side and see if this works, because the only way you can see your ult is if, like I said, if there's a knockup. Okay. Luckily it spawns quickly. Hopefully I can get this to work. Okay, so the way her ult functions is when a player is up in the air, whether it be a knock-up from like a Sobek, or a leap like an Uller, or a Bastet, or something like that, you pop your ult, and what it does is it pulls you to them, similar to like Nija's ult. So what it does, calls upon the power of the moon, immediately pulling her to the closest enemy god she is facing that is either leaping or knocked up into the air. The target god takes damage when it lands. She's then bathed in moonlight, gaining bonus attack speed and physical power for 5 seconds. So it's not really like a, any kind of like execute or anything like that. I'm not, the range is significant, but it is very situational. So if you get, one of those team matchups where, you're not facing like a Hunbats or, somebody with a leap ability, which usually you're going to have at least one on every team. Your ult could come into play pretty few and far between. So although she is powerful, she's very much like ability based. Her kit is not overly complicated, but like I said, it's kind of like Sarkat, learning the intricacies of it and becoming proficient with it. It's going to take a little bit of practice. It's one of the few gods where you really need to pay attention to their hit progression because it does come into play with her number 2. And then, that's really, kind of about it. She does have a pretty simple kit. Just getting kind of down that hit progression interaction down is super strong. As far as gear that I get on her, or that I'm, from what I've played so far, what I've kind of decided for me is working well until further notice rather. So I go Warrior Tabby, Transcendence. She is pretty mana intensive. Like I said, she's pretty reliant upon her her abilities. Popping in and off your cat constantly, off your mount, your number 2, your 3. I mean, relatively short cooldowns, but you definitely can go through some mana, similar to like a Bastet. Bloodforge, some lifesteal. You do end up doing some boxing, Yoan's Wrath, and, pretty typical Deathbringer range. As far as passives, or actives rather, pretty much the standard. She can get around very, very quickly. So sprint, why not? It just depends. You don't really need sprint on her unless you have some, some slows or something like that you're going to be dealing with from the enemy team, just so you can be immune to that slow. Because even while it's in the cat, while you have a lot more mobility, she still is very much prone to being slowed on the cat. And then, of course, beads. So very strong. Going to be an outstanding jungler, rather. Her passive, because you're obviously going to be the first one initiating combat. You get in there, you get that 30% power buff for 2.5 seconds. 2 hits, then your number 2 to flip over and do AOE damage, and you'll be able to clear jungle camps very, very quickly. Then with her number 1 or cat, you'll be able to really get from camp to camp very, very quickly. So she's going to be a super, super strong jungler. As far as her ganking ability, pretty decent. With her number 3, to be able to kind of sneak up, you're riding in and your cat kind of coming in behind on the soul lane or something like that, pop your cat, it'll knock them up in the air, and then immediately ult, pull you to them, and then you get a huge attack speed buff, 70%, which is why I didn't go real heavy on attack speed items. And then, that physical power buff. So going to be a pretty strong ganker, be able to, clear the jungle very, very quickly. She does not have a whole lot of team utility, so she's, as far as like in the tier of where she's going to fall in relative to other junglers, I'd put her probably number 4, behind maybe like Ao Kuang, and then Thor and Hunbats. She's definitely strong, but yeah, I think she's pretty well balanced, and look forward to playing her more. Alright, questions, comments, leave them below, and as always, much appreciated. Subscribe. Thanks again.